What's up, guys? My name's Captain Dave and welcome back to the Captain's Quarters, the video in which I go through and answer a selection of your questions and comments from last time's video. So, if you've forgotten how this works or if you're new around here, let me break this down just so you know what we're going to be doing and how this works. So, normally with the Captain's Quarters, I go through and I pick a selection of the questions from the last episode of the Captain's Quarters. However, the last episode of the Captain's Quarters was over 2 years ago. So what I've done is I've selected a bunch of questions and comments from the explanation video I did when I first announced I was making my return to YouTube. And I'm going to be answering those questions in this video. Normally how I do this is I'll answer the question that has been asked the most first, the most requested question. And then I'll go down in order of how popular that question was, from most asked to least asked. And then at the end of the video I do something I like to call the quickfire round, which is where I just answer a selection of your questions which don't really require long in-depth answers. You just get the facts and the information you need in a quick succession. But before we jump into the first question, there is a link I'm going to be putting in the description to this video. I put it at the end of my last Captain's Quarters, and I want to put it at the start of this one because it is a video that I think perfectly describes how I feel to be back on YouTube. It is it's a very short but very funny video that perfectly encapsulates how I feel. So when you finish watching this and you fancy a laugh, go down, click the link in the description, and watch that video. Especially if you're a Mass Effect fan. If you're a Mass Effect fan, you're not going to want to miss this one. But with that being said, let's jump into the first question. Captain Dave, will you be playing Mass Effect Andromeda? Oh, Mass Effect Andromeda, why did you hurt me so? Why did you do it? I was looking forward to this game so much. I even booked a week's annual leave off work just out of pure excitement for this game. Just kind of wanted to dedicate so much time to playing this game, and it hit with all the excitement and impact of a wet fart. It's right. So before I go into this, before I start going off on Mass Effect, I am a huge Mass Effect fan. I've played the original trilogy 4, 5, 6 times, and I'm just as excited to play it now as I was the original time I played it. Mass Effect has a huge fan following of really dedicated, really passionate fans. So, to be fair to Mass Effect Andromeda, I don't think it was ever going to live up to the hype of what Mass Effect fans wanted it to be. However, not only did it not live up to the hype, it also woefully underperformed. A lot of people get hung up on the drop in the graphics and the visuals compared to the alpha footage that was leaked compared to what we actually got in the final product. And obviously there's so much so much time dedicated to the lack of facial animations and the classic "my face is so tired," which was just, you know, just the fact that that was the character that was hit the worst with it, and then she had that line, which is perfect. But and there's a whole bunch of other things, like I felt like there was a lack of cinematics when it come to side missions. In Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, every time you spoke to a character, it always did the over-the-shoulder camera, and just little stuff like that made you feel more connected with what was going on. They got rid of it in Mass Effect 3, and I hated it there, and they did it even less in Mass Effect Andromeda, and I felt like I just had no connection to the characters I was talking to. Unless you were on the Tempest, or unless you were on a part of a main mission, then it did do stuff like that. And then, as long as you were just playing the main mission, you felt quite connected to the story, you felt quite connected to what was going on. But a lot of the side stuff, quite a lot of what else was in the game, and let's face it, other than I'll say the main story is probably 30-40% of the game. The rest of it's all side stuff. When the main bulk of the game is stuff that wasn't that polished, and I felt like I just didn't connect with the characters, and I didn't really care what was going on. A lot of the characters had the same voice actors. A lot of the characters looked identical to one another. And a whole bunch of other things. A lot of people focused on that sort of stuff, but I could look past all of that. I could look past all of those faults as long as a game has a good story. A game could be made literally of stick figures, but if it had an amazing, engaging story with characters you relate to and characters you believe in and care about, then I could play a game with stick figures, and I would love it. Unfortunately, Mass Effect, and this is where Mass Effect Andromeda let me down the most, is its story just wasn't all that. Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, despite any of the faults that people might say about them, they had a great engaging story. Even where some areas Mass Effect 3 were let down, it may have felt rushed. It already had it was the third in the series. It already had an established lore, established characters, an established world and universe, more accurately put. So their flaws were overlookable. At the time, obviously the ending was a huge drama, but the rest of the game is solid. Well, with the occasional fault here and there. But Mass Effect Andromeda, if you just look at the story itself, it was quite weak. You went there with all this excitement and anticipation for what was going to be coming from this new universe, and I just felt like there was nothing there. You encountered 2 new races of sentient, I don't know, higher-minded creatures that you could actually converse with and had their own civilization. And like, I won't get into spoilers, but only one of them was really a species of their own. You had the Angarans, and then you had the Ket. And to be fair, I don't want to give anything away for anyone who hasn't seen it, but like it wasn't really 2 species. Like they had this whole universe. The universe we come from, you had the humans, the Asari, the Turians, the Krogan, the Solarian, the Volus, the Hanar, the Elcor. You had the Protheans, which were obviously long extinct. Then you had loads of other little creatures. You had the Varans, you had the Pyjaks, you had the 1,001 other things that I'm forgetting. And I'm sure there's other species as well that I'm also forgetting. You come to this new universe, you had the Angarans. The entire universe, 1 species. I just felt like no thought, and like the original Mass Effect, there is so much history that you will not even know unless you just go and read the codexes. And there's this whole history, there's regulations and rules made out about what type of FTL drives are allowed to be used, and what spaceships and what frigates must always have a commander on deck and this much crew, and must always be docked in this particular bay. Like, there is an entire world with rules and regulations that you won't even know unless you go and try and find it. You go to this new universe in Andromeda and there's 1 species? Like, it just... that I felt was a huge problem, and there was just so many other things. I'm going to try and cut this off now, because I'm just going to keep talking forever. I'm insanely passionate about Mass Effect, and I feel like this whole video would just be me talking about Andromeda if I don't cut this off here. But I just felt like the story as a whole was quite weak. And one other thing actually I do want to mention before I go is, in the original trilogy, you got so many awesome moments. Curing the Genophage, the first human Spectre, the suicide run. But other than these grand spectacles, some of the best moments are small things that you wouldn't even think of. Talking to talking to Morden on the Normandy, when he sings Solarian Scientist, when Tally's drunk, when you first wake up Legion, when Joker plays porn through his speaker, when Garrus is constantly calibrating, when Joker and Liara are talking about her tentacles moving, and 1,001 other conversations and stuff that happens. They're just great moments that happen because you're invested in these characters. In Andromeda, with some of the characters you meet and some of the squad mates you have, I did really enjoy, but they just felt like they were constantly throwing it down your throat, trying to create these hilarious, awesome, badass moments that if you just let the characters be the characters, they would happen on their own. But they felt like they were constantly trying to make hilarious moments and forcing it to happen. And as a result, it never did, and it just got annoying. And I got to a point where sometimes I didn't want to talk to my squad mates because I'd had enough of them just trying to be hilarious all the time. And there was few moments where they were just... I don't know. I'll cut this one off here because I'm going to go off on a ramble just talking about Mass Effect Andromeda, and there's 1,001 other questions I also want to get to. So, to actually answer the initial question, the actual question you asked me, will I be playing Mass Effect Andromeda? My answer is I don't know. Despite everything I've said, despite all the flaws I feel this game has, I eventually, a year later, went back and played it, and I did enjoy it. It wasn't everything I wanted to be, but as soon as I pretended it wasn't a Mass Effect game, I did actually quite enjoy it, despite all the problems I've said. It's not nowhere near up to the standard of the original Mass Effect trilogy, but if you pretend it's not a part of the Mass Effect universe, it's a half-decent game in its own right. So, will I be playing it? I don't know. To be honest, I'm going to throw the question back to you guys. Would you guys like to see it? Because a few people asked, obviously this was the most asked question if I'll be playing Mass Effect Andromeda, but really I need to know, would you guys want to see it? Because it's a long game and it will take a lot of time to get through the entire thing. So, will Mass Effect Andromeda be something you want to see? Because if so, maybe I'll consider playing it. It's not something I'll be playing begrudgingly. It's something I will enjoy despite all its faults. But it's something I would be willing to play. But I'd only be willing to play it if you guys really want to see it. If enough of you actually generally want to see it. So yeah, I'll throw the question back to you. Is it something you want to see? Oh God, that was a long one. I spent way too much time on that. I can only apologise. Let's get on to the next question. Captain Dave, what are your thoughts on Infinity War, Endgame, and the rest of the MCU? Rightio, so Infinity War. So many emotions with Infinity War. Other than the fact that they said, obviously, Avengers Infinity War, and now as we know that it's titled Endgame, weren't going to be a part 1 and a part 2 film. But we can't really say for certain until we see Endgame. But to be honest, it feels very much like a part 1, part 2 film. Infinity War ended on what I think can only be described as a cliffhanger. It's the cliffhanger of all cliffhangers. But until we see Endgame, we don't actually know if it really is a 1-parter and a 2-parter, or if Endgame is actually going to feel like it's a film in its own right. But yeah, so many emotions about Infinity War. Other than the fact, if I could just talk about the MCU as a whole, I love it. I'm very happy with its progress. I'm loving where it's going. I'm loving what they're doing with Spider-Man. Absolutely loving it. He's my favourite. This is my favourite incarnation of Spider-Man out of all the movies. He's my favourite. I think Tom Holland is just smashing it. I'll be honest, when I first saw him as Peter Parker in Civil War, I had my doubts. I'll be completely honest. I wasn't sure. Probably because nothing to do with their acting, as we have seen from Spider-Man Homecoming and Infinity War and 1001 other things. He's great as Spider-Man. I think it was maybe because Spider-Man scenes and that scene when Tony Stark goes to his home in Queens was recorded very late in the production of Civil War, so I think maybe if anything it felt a little bit off. That was the reason why. But no, I'm loving Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I'm loving what they're doing with his character, and I can't wait to see Far From Home and whatever the third film in that particular franchise will be. So other than that, I'm loving everything they do in the MCU. I think it's going fantastic, and I'm so excited for Endgame. It is unbelievable. I can't believe we're finally at this point. I remember sitting there at work being excited to see when it's sitting there watching the first Iron Man trailer and then seeing the Iron Man 2 trailer like a year or two later. I can't believe we're at Endgame. I can't believe we're here. It is incredible. And as much as I'm excited for Endgame, I'm also starting to get to that point where I'm itching to find out what's going to happen after Endgame. Like, we know we've got Spider-Man Far From Home. We know we're going to have a sequel to Doctor Strange. We know we're going to have a sequel to Black Panther. I'm assuming we're going to get sequels to Captain Marvel. It's finally been confirmed that James Gunn's coming back for the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So we know we've got characters coming forward. So I'm just curious what the next big bad's going to be. What's the next thing we're going to be leading up to? There's been a few hints and a few rumours. I don't necessarily want to say what some of them are because some of you may not have seen Captain Marvel yet. Some of you may not have even seen Infinity War yet. So I don't necessarily want to say what some of the next big bad could be. But there have been hints and there have been rumours. Getting back to Infinity War, absolutely loved it. I think the way they did was beautiful. I loved how you just jumped into Infinity War straight away. At this point, they kind of said, look, you either need to have seen all of our films or you're not going to have a clue what's going on. And I'm glad they did that. I would have been bummed out if they had spent the first half hour of Infinity War explaining this is Iron Man and this is Doctor Strange. And, like, no, you either need to know who these characters are or you don't. Like, at this point, we're 20 films in. Like, it's got an established lore. You know who they are or you don't. But I absolutely loved it. I loved everything about it. The one gripe I had with the film, and it's a tiny gripe because it was such an incredible film, is I wish we had seen everyone together. And I'm kind of hoping maybe at some point we're going to get to see this in Endgame, because I get why they did it from a film point of view. If you had, I can't even think how many characters there are in the MCU at this point, but if you had all the Guardians, all the Avengers, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, the Wasp, everyone else that I'm forgetting, all together in one scene, how the hell are you supposed to give everyone their own screen time? Like, but I kind of wish that had happened. I get why they did it. So you had like the Guardians, the mustache bros, facial hair bros, Iron Man and Doctor Strange, Spider-Man in one section. You had what's left of the Avengers and Wakanda in one section, and then you had Thor and the other half of the Guardians in another section. So I get why it was split up to get each character their own focus. But what I really hoped we were going to see in Infinity War was, say, like that battle in Wakanda, but it had everyone. The Guardians, Iron Man, Thor, absolutely everyone all together, and almost like a scene like you see in Age of Ultron where it's slow motion and they're all fighting in tandem all around one another. That's what I really hoped you would have got to see, but literally every character together. And I'm kind of hoping in Endgame They fix whatever they need to fix, they do whatever they need to do, and almost like it rewrites time or it rewrites history, and almost like they go back to that battle in Wakanda, but this time they've gone back and like either warned themselves, or they've done this, or they've done that, or whatever it is they're going to do, because I have no idea what they're going to do in Endgame, but they do whatever they're going to do, but basically it sort of like rewrites history. So now when Thanos turns up in Wakanda, everyone's there and they're ready. Like, that's what I'm hoping in, and you see this one all-out battle with Thanos, his people, all those little weird space dogs, as Rocket called them, all fighting as one big unit. That's what I'd love to see. That would be my dream. I would die a happy man if I saw that. But yeah, so Infinity War, absolutely loved it. I think they smashed it out of the park. I went to see it in the cinema 3-4 times. I just couldn't get enough of it. That ending kills me to this day. It is so heartbreaking. And I think it's more heartbreaking because the MCU has always been, it's had its serious moments, it has its sad moments, but it's always been a light-hearted place. It's always been a bit of a comedial place. Even in serious moments, they're cracking the odd quip here and there. And the hero always rises to the occasion. Someone might die, someone might pay the ultimate price, but they always rise to the occasion. And I think Captain America's face and expression at the end perfectly justifies it, where he just sits there and just says, oh God, like, they've lost. Like, everything has been lost. Half the civilization around the entire galaxy gone, literally, like that. It was perfectly done. It literally, almost like the last 20 years of this happy-go-lucky nature was building up for this big crushing moment at the end, and it makes the stakes going into Endgame so good, so dire. Like, they have nothing to lose, and I can't wait. So pumped, so pumped. Captain Dave, what comics are you currently reading? Okie pokey. Now, this is actually a great timing to ask me this question, because for some time now, in my own time, in my personal time, I've actually been compiling a reading order, like a comics reading list, for fans who want to jump into the current stage of comics, but don't know where to start, don't know what to read, and keep missing things and missing stuff that's been happening. So I've been trying to compile an inclusive reading list just to follow like the main story that goes on, because there will be different events and different things that happen, and in this event the Avengers are the main focus, and in this event the Inhumans are the main focus. And if you just read the all new, all different Avengers, or you just read the Uncanny Avengers, or you just read the Champions, or just Spider-Man, or something like that, you're always going to miss things. So what I've been trying to do for some time now is compile a list that basically has a reading order for all the comics you need to read to find out the main nitty-gritty of what's going on. So it's all stemmed, a little bit of backstory, it's all stemmed because I wanted to start reading comics after Secret Wars, or the 2015 Secret Wars. I read that, loved it, wanted to start reading comics after that, but I didn't know where to jump in. And because after Secret Wars, it's not necessarily a reboot, but it's like a starting point for everyone. So everyone is 8 months after Secret Wars, boom, first issue. So I thought it'd be quite easy. Wasn't the case. And whatever I was reading, whatever I was doing, I was missing out information. Something would happen and they'd be talking about something that I had no idea because it happened in another comic. So what I've tried to do is, jumping off from Secret Wars, I've gone through the comic events Avengers Standoff, Civil War 2, and Secret Empire. I'm currently about halfway through Civil War 2. I've actually already read those big events, Standoff, Civil War 2, and Secret Empire. I've already read them, but now I'm reading them, trying to incorporate all the tie-ins, and trying to put them in an order that makes sense. It's still in development. It's probably going to be quite a while till we get down to it, because I'm only doing it in my spare time, so I'm reading like 1 or 2 comics an evening, if that. So it's going to take a long time till I get this done, but when I do get it done, I'm going to be uploading it to the channel. So for anyone who wants to jump into the current landscape, the current, well, not necessarily current, because things have moved on a little bit, but an up-to-date point where they can jump in and start reading, especially if they have their Marvel Unlimited subscription. All of these comics are on there so they can read. So right now it's sort of incorporating the all new, all different Avengers, Uncanny Avengers, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Sam Wilson, Captain America, and then Steve Rogers, Captain America. And I'm in an R in about whether to include the Uncanny Inhumans, because they do play quite a role in Civil War 2. I'm thinking actually when I've done this, I'm going to do a separate one for Uncanny Inhumans and X-Men, because X-Men and Inhumans have their whole own realm going on. Like, they're in the same universe, they're in the same world, but they've just, like, X-Men itself at that particular point, I think had 2 or 3 different X-Men runs. Uncanny Inhumans, I think, just had the one, but eventually they lead up to X-Men versus Inhumans. So I'm thinking they've had their own little story and war going on back and forth for a while. They've kind of got their own isolated story. Inhumans play a huge role in Civil War, but other than the tie-in issues for Civil War, I don't really feel you need to read the comics leading up to it. I'm going to give them a read and find out. But yeah, to sort of bring this back. So yeah, I'm actually compiling a comic reading list for post-Secret Wars. So when that's done, I'll upload it. So if any of you actually want to jump into comics, any of you actually want to find a starting point, and you want to read through in the correct reading order, and just find out everything that you need to know and everything that's going on without missing anything, hopefully this will be able to help. The one problem I found is, when I was trying to find this for myself, the reason why I decided I wanted to make this was because whenever I searched for a reading order online, they either told you absolutely every single comic, like including Howard the Duck. Like, Howard the Duck isn't relevant. He's not. You don't need to read Howard the Duck to find out what's happening in Civil War 2. So they either told you everything, or they would tell you the comics you need to know, but they would just tell you in the order they were released, and that doesn't always make sense, because just as this is, for example, say Civil War 1. You would have Civil War 1, and you would have maybe Spider-Man issue 60, 61, 62, 63, which was a tie into Civil War. They would tell you to read Civil War 1, Spider-Man 60, Civil War 2, Spider-Man 61, but that doesn't necessarily work. So for argument's sake, that 5-issue run of Spider-Man could all take place on one night. So you wouldn't read Civil War 1, Spider-Man, Civil War 2, Spider-Man, because all that happened in one night. So what I'm doing is I'm reading through all of these comics, of every issue of these comics, to try and find out where the best place to put it. So instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, it's going Civil War 1, Civil War 2, Sam Wilson, Captain America, 1 to 5, Civil War 3, because it actually makes more sense to the story. So as you can imagine, this is a huge undertaking. It's taken a long time, but I'm really enjoying doing it. When this is done, I'll be happy to take suggestions of ones that you would like to see. What I'm planning on doing, as I said, I'd like to do an X-Men and Uncanny Inhumans one in the modern landscape, leading up to Avengers versus Inhumans versus X-Men. I would love to do one for the Ultimate Universe, because the Ultimate Universe is perfect, because they're so not closed off, but they're so finite. All you had was Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Ultimates. That was it. That's all you had. So it's so much easier to create an actual chronological and coherent reading order, where it's like in the main Marvel landscape, there's always overlaps. Whereas one person might say this, and then they're talking about this. And it's never always going to line up, because you've got so many different comics, so many different writers, and they're not all communicating. So it's never going to work properly 100%. But in the Ultimate Universe, it does, because you had 1, 2, 3 writers, and they all had to report back to, I think it was Bendis, I think it was. Like, I think he was like the driving force for it. So when you get to like events like Ultimatum, oh, it's beautiful, because they all just culminate together. I'd like to do one for 2004, reading list onwards. It's my favourite era. I absolutely loved that time in comics, starting with Avengers Disassembled, going through with New Avengers Breakout, into House of M, Civil War, Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, Siege. Oh, loved it. It was so good. Such an amazing read. Avengers, New Avengers, Dark Avengers. Oh, I'd love to do a reading order for that for you, because that's amazing. And I'd love to go back and read all that again, because it's just such a fantastic time in comics. But yeah, any suggestions you have. So again, to go back to your original question, I'm not 100% up to date in comics, because as I say, I read them on Marvel Unlimited, and they're always about a year behind the current trend. I nearly got up to date with Spider-Man a couple of years ago. I got up to, I actually managed to catch up, but then I got ill, and as a result, I couldn't really afford to keep buying new comics. But up to recently, I got up to Spider-Man 800, the end of Dan Slott's run. I haven't read any of the new Amazing Spider-Man, so I'm a little behind on there. But other than that, everything else, I'm about a year behind, because I read it on Marvel Unlimited. So, but yeah, hopefully that answers your question eventually. Captain Dave, will you be playing LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2 or LEGO DC Supervillains? So regarding LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2, I was talking to one of you guys on Facebook about this. I had no idea this game even existed. It must have just completely gone over my head because I missed the release of this one. Don't remember seeing advertisements or trailers or anything for it. So, Lego Marvel Super Heroes 2 definitely I'd say it'll be on the list to do. It'll be on the to-do list. Can't necessarily say it's going to be coming next. I've got a rough idea of what I want to do. When I first decided to come back, it was because I wanted to play Spider-Man. That game was so credible. It was so good. I just desperately wanted to play it for you guys. When I finished recording it, because as I say, that game is 100% with all 3 pieces of DLC done, recorded, ready to go. When I finished recording it, I suddenly sat there and thought, oh bugger, what am I going to play next? I was so focused on Spider-Man, I forgot about what I could follow it up with. Since then, I've come up with a few ideas. All of them superhero comics related. There's going to be no games coming out of left field. They're all something to do with superheroes. Lego Marvel Superheroes is definitely on my to-do list. I think that is something I would like to do. I did the first one, thoroughly enjoyed that. So I think the second one would be something that maybe I'd like to do. Same with Lego DC Supervillains. Not really seeing anything about that one, but I'll definitely look into it. I think if it's anything like the other Lego games, it's always going to be fun. You never really can go wrong with a Lego game. They're always fun. So I'd definitely say they're onto my to-do list. Can't necessarily promise they're going to come after Spider-Man. I think maybe there might be 1 or 2 other things that I'm thinking might jump in there first. There's been a few other superhero type games that I've been wanting to play for a while, but I'll definitely say it's on the to-do list. Captain Dave, what is your favourite suit in the Spider-Man game? Oh, there are so many good suits in that game. That's a tough question. Well, to start off, your original suit, the advanced suit you have with the white spider emblem, I love that suit. I think it's one of the designers of the game actually said when they were creating that suit, they were thinking about what would an early 20-somethings want. If you were creating your own superhero suit, you'd want to put your own flair, your own style to it, and that's why they put like the white casing on his shoes, on his boots, and like the white gauntlets on his gloves. They were trying to think what were someone in their 20s like. They're trying to make it look like he's wearing trainers, kind of make it look like he's wearing gauntlets to pack a punch. And the white emblem, like very rarely have they done anything white with Spider-Man's color scheme other than the Future Foundation suit. So I liked it. I think it was a very fresh touch on the Spider-Man costume. Speaking of that, the Future Foundation suit, absolutely love that. It's always been one of my favorite suits from the comics. The Avengers Infinity War suit you get for pre-ordering, love that suit. I think that suit looks amazing. I think it looks better during the daytime in the game. Sometimes at night, it can look a little bit weird. If you get caught in a bright light in the night time in the game, it looks like it's really rusty and really old. And sometimes in like cut scenes where his eyes are glowing, it can be a little bit jarring. It can kind of look a bit funky sometimes. But if you use that Infinity War suit during the daytime, oh, that suit's beautiful. That's definitely one of my favorites. But now there's so many good suits in that game. There's so many I'm going to be forgetting about. I love the what was it called? The Last Stand suit. I didn't like that one at first, but that suit grew on me eventually. I quite like that one. Obviously you got the stealth suit, you got the dark suit. I mean, both of them are great. The Stark suit looks decent. It looks kind of weird. Sometimes when it's raining, it looks really rubbery. That looks a little bit weird. Yeah, there's so many good suits. There's going to be so many suits I'm forgetting as well. But there's so many great suits in that. One of my favourite suits, which isn't actually in the game, is the Miles Morales suit, the black and red one. That's always been one of my favourite Spider-Man suits. I think it's just incredible. It looks so good. Even Peter Parker says it when he meets Miles Morales at one point. He goes, well, not only are you using my name, but you have a cooler suit as well and better powers. Like, so it's nice to know that OG Peter Parker actually recognises that Miles Morales has the better suit. But unfortunately, that suit was not present in this game. I think it's very telling that suit isn't present in this game. As far as I'm concerned, that's a lot of foreshadowing. Any suit that they don't have in this game, as far as I'm concerned, is a sign of that there's a good chance they're going to use that suit in the future. One thing, I haven't mentioned it, I didn't mention it at all in my walkthrough, and I think once the walkthrough's done and completely up and loaded, I'm actually going to do either like a video or like a live stream, where I'm just going to talk about the game, so I can talk to you guys about all my thoughts and feelings on the game, because I don't want to do it too far yet, because the walkthrough has barely got started, and some of you may not even have seen it yet, so I don't want to talk spoilers. But one thing I do want to mention right now is one of my favourite suits, again, that isn't in the game, is the Superior Spider-Man suit. That suit is just fantastic. I think it looks incredible. And the fact it's not in this game, much like the Miles Morales suit, I think is very telling of a sign of things to come in future Spider-Man games. If like that's such an iconic suit by this point, the Superior Spider-Man suit, and the fact they haven't put it in the game, but we get stuff like the Ghost Rider suit, makes me think they're thinking of using it. And That, I think, is incredible, and that, I think, is a sign of good things to come. Captain Dave, will you be playing Resident Evil 2? Now, this question really took me by surprise. It was not something I was expecting to be asked, let alone twice. But Resident Evil 2, will I be playing that? Unfortunately, no. Resident Evil is just not really my cup of tea. It's just not really the sort of game I normally play. I did play the original Resident Evil. Well, actually, I didn't play it in full. I had a demo when I was a kid, and I had to wait for my younger brother and sister to go to sleep before I played it. To be honest, I think I was actually a little bit too young to be playing that game at the time. Scared the bejeebers out of me, but nah. Resident Evil and just horror games in general, they're just not really my sort of thing. It's not really the sort of game I'll probably be playing in the future. I mean, hell, I get enough requests to play a particular type of game. You never know. You don't know what the future holds. But I don't see myself playing a horror game anytime soon. Although, you guys would probably find it hilarious because jump scares and stuff like that would just have me crapping myself. So, Captain Dave, will The Walking Dead Season 2 be coming back? Unfortunately, no. I think this was something I addressed in the last episode of the Captain's Quarters, but as I say, that was 2 years ago. So, when I was initially recording and uploading Season 2 of The Walking Dead, I had a lot going on in my life outside of YouTube. I was just finishing up my last year of university. I had 1,001 other things going on. Not to mention, I had 2 series also going live on my channel alongside The Walking Dead. So, Season 1 of The Walking Dead, I really enjoyed. Season 2 of The Walking Dead, I really enjoyed. But by the time we got to, I think it was like episode 3 of Season 2, I was feeling drained, and it was mainly because I just didn't have the passion, I just didn't have the drive to continue playing Season 2 of The Walking Dead. I could continue it, I could have kept it going, but it just would have been really fake, I guess is the best word to say. I hate words like that, any words that's used in like modern culture. Like, I hate those sort of words. But that's what it would have been. It would have been faked. I would have been phoning it in. I would have really been faking how I feel. Whereas you watch me play games like Spider-Man, Mass Effect, Skyrim, Batman. Even though I've played the game before, other than Skyrim, which I haven't completed, they're still my genuine reactions. That's still genuinely how I feel, and I am that passionate about it. Other than obviously like the role play aspect that I bring into it, whereas I play a game and I act as if like I don't know what's coming. But how excited I am and how much I enjoy it, that's true. That's still 100%, even after I played the game once or twice before. With The Walking Dead, I wasn't feeling that, and I don't want to. I'd rather leave the game unfinished than finish it and just have the really shoddy, really just quality that is not up to my standard. Talking about games like, say, the famous Fallout New Vegas that I never finished, stuff like that. That was when I first started my channel. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know how long of a game that was going to be. I didn't know the task I was setting myself. So I put that down to rookie error, a rookie mistake. Season 2 of The Walking Dead, that's my fault. I knew what I was getting myself into, and I just lost the drive and lost the passion to play it. So unfortunately, that game won't be coming back. That's 100% my fault, and I can only apologise. However, with that being said, that is the most requested questions done and dusted. And it's time to get into the questions that don't require long, in-depth answers and get this going with the quickfire round. If you had to choose between Deadpool, Spider-Man, Batman, or Logan, which would you be? If you're just choosing their abilities, then I'd be Logan. The healing factor would just be incredible. But if you're choosing their abilities, their life, their histories, and their personality, then 100% Spider-Man. Will you ever do walkthroughs of both X-Men Legends games? Very possibly. It's one of the games that's on my to-do list. Out of all the playthroughs you've done, which one did you enjoy making the most and why? Oh, another very good question. If I had to narrow it down, I'd say the Mass Effect trilogy, Mass Effect 2 in particular. I just have such great memories from recording that walkthrough, not just for what happens in the games, but just at that point in my life from recording that game. I just thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. What is your favourite Marvel game as of now? There are so many great Marvel games that I own, but as of right now, it has to be Marvel Spider-Man. What is your favourite Marvel event? It's hard to pick just one, but it'll be some combination of House of M, Civil War, or Secret Invasion. Those three are just my favourites, hands down. And also, actually thinking about it, it's a very unpopular choice, but Ultimatum from the Ultimate Universe. Everyone said they hated that. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Would you replay the Ultimate Alliance games? It was only a few years ago I redid the Ultimate Alliance 2 with the pro registration side, so I have been thinking about doing the original Ultimate Alliance. If I did, I'd probably do the remastered edition so I got some of the DLC characters, but as of right now, I'm still undecided. What Marvel stories would you recommend for a guy looking to get into Marvel? As I said, I'm making that reading order, so I think that'll be something that'll probably apply to you when I eventually get it finished. But as for right now, if you just want to look for great stories, I would read New Avengers starting from 2004, and then read all the tie-in events that come with it. House of M, Civil War, Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, and Siege right at the very end, and just follow New Avengers throughout the whole thing. It is just a great read, and it's actually where I started to read comics myself. How did you react to the snap? I survived. Have your experiences in the past 2 years changed your life view at all? I feel like as you grow as a person, you should always be changing, always re-evaluating the world around you. With regards to myself over the last 2 years, I've learned from everything that happened, and I'm older, and I'd like to think I'm a little bit wiser, but essentially I'm still the same person. Have you ever considered streaming on Twitch or YouTube? Yes, streaming is actually something I definitely want to get into. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, but I only now have the internet that's actually capable of handling streaming. So yes, streaming is something that definitely will be coming in the future. Would you ever play Uncharted? Do you know, I've never actually seen any gameplay of Uncharted. I've seen trailers and stuff like that, but I've never actually watched any gameplay. So maybe it will be something I have to look into in the future, but as of right now, no. Are you going to be playing the DLC for Skyrim? The Skyrim Special Edition actually comes with all the DLC, so I most likely will be playing it, but we'll see how it goes and how long it takes to finish the main game. What is your favourite Stan Lee cameo? Believe it or not, I think it's actually when he did the voiceover for Shattered Dimensions. I think that was just the perfect role for Stan Lee. He has such an iconic voice, and it just fit the narration for that game perfectly. Have you watched Gotham, and what do you think about it? I have watched Gotham. I did enjoy it at the start, but it was clear from the beginning that they had no planning and no idea where they were going to take the show, and it's not surprising it's reached this unorganized ending that it's eventually getting to. But with that being said and done, I'm going to wrap up this video here. If you like this sort of video and you want to see more of this going forwards in the future, please be sure to press the like button and share this video in as many places as possible. It really helps the channel to grow. If you're new here, then feel free to subscribe, or if you've been around for a while, be sure to press the notification bell. Those sub boxes do not always work, but failing that, I hope you all have a lovely day, be nice to people, and I'll catch you guys later.